to 1992. Lecturer 1, 1992 to 1998. Senior Lecturer, 1998 to 2004. Associate Professor, 2004 to 2011. Professor, 2011 till date. Head of Department of Communication Arts, 1997 to 2000. Also in 2007 to 2009, as well as 2015 to 2017. As a communication teacher, Udoakah is a member of many cognate professional organizations. These include Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR, Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, Nigerian Mass Communication Association, African Council for Communication Education, ACCE, Amnesty International, as well as University Media Aesthetics Association. Udoakah is very rich in research, publications, and conference exposure, thus becoming one of the most prolific and celebrated scholars in Nigeria. His research and writing areas include political communication, development communication, public relations, and he is the sole author of Government and the Media in Nigeria, Development Communication, Issues in Mass Media Practices, Special Topics in Public Relations, the Nigerian Press, and Political Communication. These are in addition to many articles in reputable journals, as well as chapters in highly referred books. He has attended both local and international conferences. These include Media Conference London, organized by the British Film Institute in 1983, Symposium on the Problems of Refugees in Africa, Oxford University, England, 1988, Workshop on Public Relations for Fundraising, 1987. African Berlin International Conference, Il Lombard University, Berlin, Germany, 2009. University of Westminster Conference on Racism, Ethnicity, and Media in Africa, London, UK, 2010. 5th Regional Conference on Information and Communication Technology in Higher Institutions in Nairobi, 2010. Conference on Journalism and History, Dialogue Humanities Research Institute, University of Sheffield, United Kingdom, 2010. And the first International Communication Studies Conference, University of Botswana, 2010. As a teacher, researcher, and mentor, Professor Udoakah has supervised more than 50 MA and PhD works. Specifically, he has supervised 35 PhD students in the Department of Communication at University of Uyo. 7 of them are currently professors, and many of them are witnesses today. As a scholar and critic, Udoakah has been on the editorial board of many academic journals and other publications. He is the founding editor-in-chief of Uyo Journal of Communication Studies, UJCS. Member editorial board, Journal of Linguistics and Communication Studies, Department of Linguistics and Communication Studies, University of Port Harcourt. Editor, International Journal of Communication, Department of Mass Communication, Associate Editor, University Journal of Media and Communication, Faculty of Communication Technology, Cross River State, Associate Editor, Journal of University Media and Aesthetics, Communication Arts, University of Uyo, Consulting Editor, Society of Nigerian Artists, Public Editorial Advisor, Canal Examiner to many universities and polytechnics in the country. He has River State University of Science and Technology, Port Harcourt. External Examiner, Department of Mass Communication, Benue State University, Makurdi. External Examiner, University of Ibadan. External Examiner, University of Ibadan. External Examiner, Department of Theatre Arts and Mass Communication, University of Benin City. And External Examiner, Department of Mass Communication, Akwa Ibom State University, Udoakah. By reason of Professor Udoakah's unmistakable strictness, discipline, firmness, boldness, sincerity, fairness, and objectivity, he has been saddled with so many responsibilities of trust and confidence within and without the university, such as chairman or member of investigation panels, chairman electoral commission, student union government, University of Uyo, vice president, senior staff club, University of Uyo. Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah is currently the chairman, board of trustees, University of Uyo Alumni Association. Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah, standing here before us, is happily and comfortably married to Lucy, the wife of his youth. The 40-year uninterrupted and unbroken marriage is blessed with 5 issues: 2 males and 3 females, as well as 5 grandchildren. Professor Udoakah is a gospel minister who, alongside other Christian faithful, planted the Church of Christ, University of Uyo community. He is also the founder, Nkereuwem Development Association, a teen and local government area of Akwa Ibom State. As a sequel to his spirit of community development and services to humanity, Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah is a recipient of many awards and commendations, such as Grand Award for Services to Mankind from the Student Union Government, University of Uyo, 1991. Certificate of Honor for Services to Students from the Association of Communication Arts Students, ACAS, University of Uyo, 1997. Excellence Award from ACAS. Certificate of Honor for Services to Community from Nkereuwem Youth Club, a teen and local government area of Akwa Ibom State, 1997. And the Pulpit Watch Merit Award, 1998. Professor Udoakah is listed in Who is Who in Akwa Ibom State. He is also listed in Who is Who in Nigeria, as well as being listed as in a British publication as one of the outstanding people of the 21st century. Professor Udoakah is American Biographical Institute's Person of the Year. The fair-skinned professor of Political Communication and Media Studies is a receiver of letter of commendation from the university for his contribution to the success of the second convocation ceremony of the University of Uyo in 1997. Letter of commendation from the University of Uyo for loyal services as acting head of Department of Communication Arts from 1997 to 2000. Letter of commendation from the University of Uyo for contributions to the success of an investigation panel in 2002. And letter of commendation from the University of Uyo for services as acting head of department from 2007 to 2009. Professor Udoakah is listed in the University of Uyo Alumni Hall of Fame. How about that for applause? While performing his duties as the head of department of communication at University of Uyo, Professor Udoakah had severally reviewed the communication arts programs and curriculum to bring them in line with the contemporary global standard. Developed the diploma program in mass communication for the department. He led the department to full accreditation at 92% by the National Universities Commission, NUC. He led the department to a full accreditation by the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON. He kept the department's training newspaper, Campus Times, on the newsstand. He also founded the Uyo Journal of Communication Studies. It may please us to say that most of the papers presented in this conference would be published in that journal founded by Professor Udoakah. He also raised funds and set up an internet service in the Department of Communication Arts. Also, as head of department, Professor Udoakah organized a fundraising ceremony, used the proceeds of that ceremony to start the Communication Art House, which work is in progress on the main campus of the University of Uyo. He also helped in building and equipping a state-of-the-art studio, radio and television studios for the Department of Communication at University of Uyo. Professor Udoakah reviewed the department's postgraduate programs and introduced new ones, namely development communication, political communication, and non-violent communication. The Vice Chancellor, sir, in view of the foregoing, the Latin maxim says, res ipsa loquitur. The fact speaks for itself. Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah, elevated professor in 2011, deserves to be honored this day. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to present to you a teacher, a mentor, the 54th inaugural lecturer of the University of Uyo, a gentleman who was born on 28th November 1951, a handsome scholar, a devout Christian, a beautiful minister of the gospel, a prolific writer, a down-to-earth researcher, a fair, friendly, but firm and accomplished academic, a faithful husband of one wife, a disciplined father of 5, and a loving grandfather of 5. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Nkereuwem Johnson Udoakah.
Ladies and gentlemen, honor to whom honor is due. I think Professor Udoakah deserves another round of applause. My presentation was going on. Another distinguished alumnus of this department worked. I am referring to the Dean of the Faculty. Round of applause. Incidentally, Professor Okun was mayor also in this department. So we have and incidentally also he was a classmate. That class has produced, we call on the Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I have the honor to present this award that has been instituted by one of the many friends of Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah in the dialogue. The call is to the tune of 200, and it will begin from the next.
That one lives in New York, who have been a blessing to our department. Vice Chancellor, Professor Yabo, here ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Anthony Udoakah, to give his address. Mr. Vice Chancellor,
the chairman on this occasion, the Dean of the Faculty, represented by the Vice Dean, Dr. Isaac Udoakah, the Honorable Commissioner for Information, Nkereuwem State, the keynote speaker, Professor Lai Asho, other members on the high table. For want of time, I won't be able to list all. I've seen a friend here that cannot be easily forgotten, and that friend is a senior person, Professor, the nephew of Udoakah, and spouse. I also recognize all other dignitaries here present, including political allegiance. I also recognize the one that is being honored today, Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah and his spouse, distinguished academicians, members of the press, great Nigerian students. Great Nigerian students. If it can't be louder than that, then I will lower you. Great Nigerian students. I welcome everyone to this occasion on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the Professor of Agronomy and Farm Systems, the 8th substantive Vice Chancellor of the University of Uyo, the first alumnus of the University of Uyo to be appointed Vice Chancellor of this university. This is one event that I have attended and I don't know what to say. I was invited to this event as an individual, and whether fortunately or unfortunately for me, the event also coincided with other events which the Vice Chancellor had designated me to represent. I was there, the people were not ready, and while still waiting for them to be ready outside, the VC called me that I should be here. And because I have no time to even think about this occasion, that is why I'm saying that whether I have something to say or not. Be that as it may, I want to thank us on this event for calling us together in this way. It is good to honor an individual while he is still alive. That is why I'm particularly happy about this event. That you have chosen to honor Professor Udoakah while he is still alive is very much appreciated by the University of Uyo management. Professor Udoakah has been a very valuable person within and outside the University of Uyo. Apart from teaching, he has played several other roles in the system. And because his achievements have already been listed during the citation, I do not therefore have any reason to start listing them again. I congratulate Professor Udoakah for this feat that he has achieved. Not everyone has this done for them. It is a mark of your appreciation of what Professor Udoakah has done to each of us as individuals and to the system, and perhaps the Akwa State environment. My hope is that by the time Prof. Udoakah leaves the system, there should be another Prof. Udoakah to step into his shoes by the time he leaves. I'll tell my boss what I've heard and what I've seen. That I may not be able to stay longer than the time I leave this podium, because the other are started calling and they are now ready, and that there's a particular person that doesn't want to deliver his speech. I wish all successful deliberations at this event, back to where we all came from, by the time the occasion is brought to a close. God bless all of you for coming.
Please, a round of applause to the Vice Chancellor, represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Thank you very much, sir. He was speaking of certain persons whose attendance at this event cannot be overlooked. It is my pleasure, therefore, to acknowledge the presence of the former Dean of the Postgraduate School of the University of Uyo, Professor Joseph Ubinaju of the Department of Foreign Languages. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. While I was undergoing my doctoral studies in this university, I had the privilege of having someone from the Department of English serve as my internal examiner. And I can say that that experience was quite pleasant for me and was quite illuminating as well, because it opened my eyes to many issues concerning the semantics and the semiotics of language. I am referring to Professor Luke Ayo of the Department of English. Sir, you are welcome. Thank you for all that you contributed to my life and to our department. God bless you, sir. In our midst also is the head of the Department of English, a sister department, and my very good friend, Dr. Ubong Josiah. You're welcome, sir. I cannot fail to acknowledge also the immediate past head of the Department of Communication Arts, Associate Professor of Broadcast Aesthetics, Dr. Nsikanabasi Sam Nkanga. You're welcome, sir. We are set to enter a session of serious cogitations and intellection. And the man who will do that will give the keynote lecture for that, for this exercise, and kickstart this whole process of deliberations is very much in our midst. But it is my pleasure to invite somebody who's much more qualified than I am to introduce him and to give honor to this erudite scholar. My pleasure, therefore, to ask the chairman of the organizing committee of this conference, Professor Uwem to come and do that honor of introducing the keynote speaker. Professor Uwem, please. Thank you. A round of applause, please. A round of applause.
The chairman on this occasion, the vice chancellor, all other protocol duly observed. Dr. Nkereuwem has done the job. But I think he's only behaving like Dr. Nkansenam, who said as a mentee, he couldn't invite his mentor to stand. Just because he doesn't want to invite Professor Laosho to come over, he gives me that singular honor and privilege. Professor Laosho is an astute professor of communication. He's an international one. I wanted to say based in Lagos, but he's not. He's even here in Uyo, and only God knows from Uyo where he will be going to. He's an international and national scholar, one of those who participated in the unbundling of mass communication in Nigeria. He's one of those who came out with 8 departments for mass communication. And as the head of department announced, by the grace of people like Professor Laosho, our department will be having 8 departments anytime from now. Professor Laosho is a friend of communication arts. He comes here very often. Last month he was here, and I'm sure next month he will be here. Besides that, Professor Laosho is a personal friend of Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah. And so when the spirit moves, you see the evidence. When the planning committee decided on Laosho, we went and interfaced with Professor Udoakah. And the only name he mentioned, there was no option, there was no alternative, was Professor Laosho. So his choice coincided with ours. And based on that, we didn't have any reservation to invite Professor Laosho to come. And immediately we mentioned the very young professor, is the youngest professor in this place, decided to honor us today. He came since yesterday and he's been keeping in touch to tell us that he will be here. And so when he sounded last night or yesterday evening that it was at Murtala Mohammed International Airport about to board the flight, you could feel how we heaved a sigh of relief. And I want to believe that as he comes to this rostrum, that he will give us something that forever we'll continue to think about concerning political communication. It is therefore my privilege to invite a professor of mass communication in the Lagos State University, Professor Laosho, to give us the keynote lecture. Professor Sir.
Thank you very much. Maybe my first appreciation should go to the band. I'm really delighted with this, what these young people are doing. Thank you very much. I don't know where to start from. I'm not very good at protocols, but I want to say I'm really highly honored to have been invited to be part of this ceremony. If I've not been invited as a guest speaker, but the fact that the department is honoring a very senior colleague, I would have been here. for doing this for Professor Udoakah. We don't normally honor people until they are dead. But I think this example should go around everywhere, that let us appreciate the good things that people do, particularly teachers. As Peter said, let's honor them when they are alive, to keep them happy whenever they decide to go to the other side. I want to thank my dear brother and another senior colleague. They call him living ancestor. But down there in the southwest, we call him Otuba. He's an Otuba in communication, Professor Des Wilson. I want to thank God for your contributions to this field of study. You have really done well. But I'm surprised seeing you. You are looking younger than the last time I saw you. That means, madam, somebody is taking very good care of you. Yes. So we thank God for your life. I want to thank the university for affording the opportunity for the department to honor Professor Udoakah. In some other places, because of internal politics, this kind of ceremony might not have happened. So we want to thank, please give my very deep appreciation to the Vice Chancellor for this. I want to speak on the topic I call the political economy or political communication. I came in contact with Professor Udoakah not for the first time through his publications. I would like to say the circumstance, because it's a circumstance that is usually kept secret. But I got to know about him through his publications, and since then I've been, following, his works at least up to the point of his inaugural lecture, which was also on political communication. So I want to speak on the political economy of political communication. I start off by observing or noting the intimate relationship between media and politics. You cannot practice politics today without a very deep consideration of the media. Actually, we are now in an era that people say is driven, that politics is driven by the mass media. There is something that some people now call, well, one Bloomer call it modern publicity process, that publicity is the essence of almost everything that we do now. Or what another scholar called the new visibility afforded by the media. So if you are a politician, or even any form of social actor, NGO or whatever, the media must be at the center of your activities if you really want to have any public impact. So, most of our political actors and social actors actually perform. Well, the people in theater arts are not here. They are all performers looking for media attention. And that is the essence of some of the things I want to discuss here today. So there is a lot of pressure on political actors to meet the demands of the media for them to remain relevant or whatever. I'll give examples. If you see a Dino Melaye dancing or doing all kinds of things, it's not because he loves dancing, it's because he wants to attract media attention. That's the way he thinks he can stay relevant in the political system. If you see a Baba Obasanjo dancing, saying all kinds of things, it's because he wants to attract media attention so that he can remain relevant in the Nigerian political space. To tuck it inside in one corner inside page where nobody will see it, or the kind of headlines they give, that is one power. But there is another greater power which political actors use. That is, the media constitute the channel through which people acquire power. So, in those senses, political actors really realize the importance of political communication. So, in today's world, the media has become the main institution of the public sphere. Time was when person-to-person communication, interpersonal communication could do it, when you can compose a song and all that. If you compose a song now to, for your political party, and you don't get it into the media on radio or television, it's just maybe you and your members that only be, have access to such. So the media constitutes the main organ of the public sphere in today's media environment. And the public sphere is like what we know as the marketplace of ideas. It's a place that is expected, ideally, to be open to almost anybody. It should be open on basis of equality, universality, and rationality. It is assumed that anybody can get into the public space. That is, the media should be open, should create access to almost anybody that has anything to say. So, there should be no discrimination. So, don't worry. I hope people at the back can hear you. When you say no, that means you have to. So, the scholar that Prof says that the volunteer was created by capitalism. And ironically, it was that same capitalist tendency, the forces of capitalism, that now destroy the public. That is the irony. And that how does that something that was created as 19th century after the forces came and colonized that and what is the implication of that? That is so I said that communication now within the dynamics of commercial and economic forces and political calculation. The media that we have today, the media systems that we have today, not only in Nigeria, and probably are now run as commercial enterprises whose main rationale is to make profit, not to. And what is the implication of that? I said that access to the media, some group of people are more or less marginalized, while some people on daily are portrayed and spotlighted on daily regular basis because of the commercial and the competition in the media. So I try to define what to mean by the essence of my definition is that political communication basically is a form of contentious communication. Because there are so many forces involved, so many groups involved in political communication. Therefore, it is necessary to promote some level of participation and competition. So, and that means that access to the media is a struggle. As I said earlier, so many social groups are competing for access to that space. And we have different interests and so on. So, the point I want to stress is that the information we get in the media is not. It is a form of information that has a lot of ideological and political implications. So, news, as we say, is not value free. News news expresses certain values, that work in the interest of certain social groups to the detriment of some other social groups. So, I also say that communication is promoting communication. There's a purpose for communication. It's not just communication that is like advertising. People who advertise and communication know what it is. So those who are involved in communication also have their own purpose. It's an intentional form of communication. Then, of course, I put that look at the media access and power. Media is an instrument of power. Whether you're talking to television, our people in social media, they are all instruments of power. And therefore, those who want to acquire power, those who want to acquire influence, must find a means of intervening, of influencing media production, without being seen doing influence. Many focus on that. Most this power is the power that is exercised without being very often. So those who want to acquire power, they have to have a lot of skills. They have to employ a lot of strategies and resources to make sure that they influence media production. Then, of course, I look at the strategies that trying to innovate or influence media production. One, there is the internal factor, what we call media routines, the way journalists naturally do their job. The news, what we call news values. If you look at news values are usually one, it encourages personality, the big man. Journalism is still the result of the big man theory of history. It's the big man that makes history in journalism, not the ordinary person. It encourages disputes. Conflict is a major news value. The more conflictual a situation is, the better it is for journalists to report it. It encourages negativity. Things that are negative will get into the news net quite easily. So if there is problem in the National Assembly, if there is problem in the state government, it gets there. Then, of course, news prioritizes the views of the elite based on the notion of hierarchy of credibility. The typical journalist believes that the Vice Chancellor of the University of Udoakah is a representative of the university. He has better knowledge of the workings of the university. So anything he says about the university will definitely get media mention. Even if it is wrong, the belief is that as the Vice Chancellor, it cannot be wrong. It's the way journalism works. So if Buhari says anything, you may dispute it some days later, but it will get front page attention. Your own dispute may now be it's not a question of conspiracy, it's not a question of bias, it's the way that the news process works. Then in line with that, the wealthy, the powerful, they have the resources to employ people who try to work for them to get their message to be useful or to be usable and attractive. Public relation people, they write their press releases. If you know the way the media works today, most of our media organizations are cash strapped. They don't have money, they don't have the resources. So Those who want to get in, they know this. So they employ experts, even some journalists themselves, to do their writing for them, and they just give it to the media, and it comes in cheap, no cost. They use it. Most of the other people in the society, the poor, the young people, they don't have such resources. So the tendency is that it is again the powerful and the rich who get into the media. Then, of course, government regulation. Government is the executive committee of the ruling class anywhere in the world. So if they know that their stability or their authority is being threatened, they can easily bring out a regulation to cow down on the media. We have seen such in Twitter, the suspension of Twitter, the NBC's usual threat against radio and television stations in Nigeria, or even, well, I don't think we have seen that of recent. They can even decide to down your whole organization and you will not publish. Apart from such naked use of force, also what two American scholars, Noam Chomsky and Hammond, call flask. They begin to, use certain descriptions, certain words to delegitimize the work of the media. Oh, these people are working for the opposition. Oh, what you are doing is against the national interest. And you ask them, what is the national interest? So by that kind of situation, they try to blackmail the media to toe the line of the ruling class. So these strategies are usually deployed, especially in political communication. So the point is that when we talk about the media, we talk about freedom of the press, freedom of expression, we tend to forget some of these contextual issues. There's no freedom of the press. It's the degree to which the elite will allow the media to work that will determine what we mean by freedom of the press. It's the degree of the consensus within the society that determines freedom of the press. Even somebody said that freedom of the press is only for those who own the press. If you don't have, you cannot. So if I don't give you this microphone, if you talk, just talk among yourself, 2, 3 of you. But if I give you the microphone, you can protect yourself for that. So we must look at these contextual factors when we talk about political communication. So when we also talk about journalists as gatekeepers, we talk about it as if the journalists have a lot of independence and autonomy to determine what gets into the newspaper or what gets into the bulletin for 9 o'clock news. They have some level of freedom, they have some level of autonomy, but they are constrained by a lot of other factors, which sometimes they cannot control. You want to attract audience, so that means you must write your story in a way that the audience will like. Many times when Nigerians listen to network news or read news, they say, there's no news there. Then you ask them, what is the news? What is it now? They just tell you Buhari went to somewhere. But if somebody rise up and say Buhari is destroying Nigeria, that is news. So there is also the tendency in us as human beings that we value something that is negative. So, and the media play on such things. So the point is that the powerful, wealthy groups in the society are so located within the institutional matrix of society to have what can be called an habitual access to the media, to project their own ideas, project their own policies, set agenda and frame issues. All of us that are outside that matrix, we now have to respond according to their own, the terms of the debate that are already been set. So when people talk, I'll give you an example about how the media sometimes tend to, because of the nature of news-making process, the agitators for separation, They've been able to make a lot of noise, get a lot of media attention because of the negative content of what they are saying. Not because even the journalists themselves believe in what they are saying, but they attract audience. People want to read about them. So they are likely to publish them than you that will sit down and say, you know, Nigeria must be united. They don't want that. That does not make news. So if anybody can rise up tomorrow and say, Nigeria must break, you will get a front page attention, even if you are from the Motor Park and you don't know, you cannot point out where Lagos is on the Nigerian map. So that is what, news is, or what the media, is doing about political communication. Then I try to look at even the word political economy itself. What does it mean by that concept? How do we study political economy of the media? I try to identify about 3 different approaches. One, there is an instrumentalist approach that tends to see the media as just the instruments of their owners, of the proprietors. That the proprietors just use the media. They can dictate what they want in their own interest. So, for instance, in Nigeria, we say that, the NTA is just a megaphone of the federal government. That's an instrumentalist approach. The Nation is Tinubu's newspaper, and things like that. The Daily Trust is for the northern people. As if there is a kind of conspiracy. But we know that sometimes, especially during period of crisis, that is possible. But on day-to-day media work, proprietors don't have the time to go and sit in the newsroom and be telling them, do this story, put this on the front page. No, it doesn't work like that. And I try to provide a table. If you look at the owners of the major newspapers, television, and radio stations in this country today, they are businessmen, though they have political interests. Some of them are members of the political party. Then they are businessmen who are interested in running their media organization as commercial enterprises to make profit. Raymond Udoakah is a businessman. He wants to make money. John Momo is a businessman, the owner of Channels TV. Ben Bruce, though he went into politics, became a senator, but he ran STV as a commercial station, doing all kinds of entertainment things. So it is that commercial thing that determines a lot of what goes on in media production, not just the dictates of their proprietors. Then the second one that I try to, the second approach is what you can call the structuralist approach, which to me seems to be more like it. The structuralist approach, based on what I've said before, look at the constraining factors of the economy, the society, how they try to limit the choices available to media workers. Not because somebody dictates to them, but the determining factors that limit the choice they can make. If some people say that, most of our newspapers are based in Lagos, any smart businessman will go to Lagos to establish a media organization, because you know that you have the facilities, you have the audience. Lagos is like a mini Nigeria. So you can write a story that you feel that will appeal to almost everybody, and they will buy your newspaper. Today in Uyo, and all you want to do is a newspaper for, I don't know, the ethnic group that controls Uyo, Ibibio. And all you want to do is just writing about Ibibio people. Your paper will die within 1 year, except you have money from somewhere to support it. But if you carry content that appeals to Ibibio, that appeals to my brothers in Oron, that appeals to people in Etnam. So they can all read, they can see something that they can relate to. Your paper will likely go further. That's economic consideration. It has nothing to do with politics. You are an individual man, but you are running a business to make money. So you don't really care about, that. So those structural factors will determine what is produced. Then, of course, the third approach that I examine is the hegemony approach, which look at the cultural institutions as carriers of ideology. So, and the media constitute a cultural institution. Whether you are talking of music, you are talking of drama, quite often the content tend to, express the dominant ideology in society. Predominantly. So hegemony tries to say that the ruling class are in control, not because they exercise force or coercion, but because they can universalize their own ideas through the mass media, through cultural institutions. And that's what they do. It's not force. It's just the way, I put it in code, the natural way. We have tended to naturalize, some of these things, and they become part of us. So the media become, whether we like it or not, from all the three perspectives, what is very clear is that they see the media as mechanisms for the projection of ruling class ideas. And the three took their starting point from Marx's position that those who control the economy, they also control the ruling ideas of a particular period. And that is given. If you control the economy, you control the wealth, the tendency is that you will have the opportunity to control the instruments of cultural projection, and therefore the ideas that are dominant at that, at that period in time. So, then of course, how does all this play out in terms of the Nigerian situation? I said it earlier. The dominant theoretical position among even Nigerian media scholars and lay people is the instrumentalist approach. And this came from our own history. Nigerian media started as the newspapers, right from Nkereuwem up to the Lagos Press. They started as instruments of fighting one cause or the other. Townsend said his newspaper was to teach literacy, to evangelize. So it was more or less an instrument for the Christianization of the Yoruba area. When the newspaper moved to Lagos, it was an instrument to fight for, to fight the colonialists. That is still our dominant thinking. And it went on during the First Republic. All the major actors have their own newspaper. Zeke had West African Pilot, Awolowo had the Tribune, AG had Daily Service. The North started with the Citizen, later it became New Nigeria. So that was discretion. But things have really changed. Now, it has changed. Even look at the broadcasting station. By the time Babangida tried to privatize, the NTA lost its monopoly of broadcasting. So also the other government-owned. How many of us now watch NTA? Or even within our own local setting here, how many of us tune into Akwa television? Okay, how many people? You are likely to tune to channels or AIT or some of the local FM stations. So, the issue of ownership control has gone beyond just proprietors dictating. It has moved to the commercial realm. Most of the popular television stations, radio stations are commercial stations. They are not government or whatever you like. So so there's a lot of reduction in government and proprietorial influence in the Nigerian media space. But what we have noticed is that there's a change in the style. There's a change in style of broadcasting. There's more of infotainment. If you watch some of the discussion programs on television, you'll find out that the style is more of an attack style. Watch it. The program anchor, it will raise the issue, then people will start, and then they invite the audience, and then everybody is talking. It's just to make sure that you attract the audience. Oh, that program is very tough. I love it. It's form over substance. Sometimes at the end of the day, when they talk, you start asking yourself, what have they said? But because of the style, the form is what people relate to, not the substance of the discussion. Then apart from changing style, you find a lot of independent producers in our broadcasting stations today, and most of them are just, they want to make money. They buy the airtime, produce the program. Actually, as I've argued elsewhere, there's no more production in our broadcasting. What you find is somebody will just sit down in the studio and be talking. I don't know what the station is here, but you open your radio station from morning till night in Lagos. It's one person or the other talk shows. That's what you get. Everybody is doing talk show. And the space, the time for civic information, for the kind of information that people need to have the required political knowledge so that they can participate fully in the political process, has been reduced. So that, to me, as I said in this paper, is a form of disempowerment of the Nigerian citizen. People don't really have the kind of knowledge that they require to be able to appreciate the complexity of our Nigerian political system. So you find out that people those who vote, they just go to vote because somebody has said you should vote for Mr. A, not because they really understand the issues that are involved. So the media in that case, with all due respect, becomes something of a diversion to divert people's attention from their real problem to ephemeral issues that people. So we now talk more of news as infotainment. It's just to entertain people and things like that. And as I've said, the real issue is that the news net is for the big fish. It's not for the small fish. The news net is for the powerful people, not for the powerless in our society. And that means that the structure of our political communication is elite-oriented and is, of course, against the ordinary people. Then, of course, people have now raised the issue. What should be the contribution of the internet? If there is a lot of democratic deficit in the mainstream media, if the mainstream media cannot adequately provide the kind of information that the ordinary people need, if the mainstream media cannot reflect the interests of the ordinary people because of some of these structural problems that I've mentioned, then the internet should be able to help us. People look at the characteristics of the internet, the social media. Anybody, if you have access to a mouse or your cell phone, you can buy 500 naira airtime. You can put anything out there, even into the global space. People in America, in even Iceland, to the public sphere. It gives people voice. It can be used to mobilize, as we witnessed during the EndSARS. The elite cannot easily control the internet and the social media. These are all beautiful. We've seen examples how the social media have been used to bring into the open things that the elite wouldn't have allowed many people to see. We saw it in the EndSARS, we saw it in Nigeria in the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. The Arab Spring was actually, a product, the revolution that followed was also a product of the social media. So there is a lot of euphoria. There's a lot of enthusiasm about the power of the internet and other digital technologies that they can help people to overcome some of the problems and challenges of the mass media. Actually, a scholar called the internet the fifth estate, not apart from the fourth estate of the realm that we know the media to be. But we know in reality that the social media, the internet, are also instruments of capitalism. They were developed within the crucible of the military-industrial complex in the United States. Some 3 or 4 days ago, we had a problem with WhatsApp. It went down all over the world and people could not talk because of just one medium. We live in what we can now call the surveillance society. The elite are using the social media for surveillance. As we sat here, most of our profile data are available on social media, and the powerful countries in the world have access to them. They aggregate all your interests, what you want. You order a book, Professor Desmondson, socialist activist. He orders a book by one socialist in America. They note it. Okay, this is one of them. They aggregate all this information and they know. Those who own the social media are interested in making profit. What's the guy's name who lost billions within 1 hour? Zuckerberg, or what's the name? I find it difficult pronouncing the name. All they want is to make money. The man who owns Twitter was interested. Look, people may say anything against Buhari for banning Twitter. I'm against it. But the interest of that man in promoting the EndSARS was to make sure that more Nigerians get on Twitter so that he can make more money. He didn't love us because he wants the police brutality to end. He wanted to make his money. We have to recognize some of these facts. So, the internet, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they are very good. But we must also recognize that they have their downside. Fake news, hate speech, lack of ethical and editorial control. They are all there. And of course, as I've said, the fact that they are all instruments. The other point is that how many Nigerians have access to the internet? We know that access and use of the internet and all social media are also constrained by socioeconomic inequalities in the society. Women, particularly old women, even young women, are not, they don't have as much access and use of the social media. Rural people, the uneducated, most people, even educated people, you see them burying their heads in their phone. They are not attending to any particularly useful information. They are watching Nollywood or listening to music. And then when you see them, 100 million Nigerians are on Facebook, and people take that to mean that 100 Nigerians are being educated politically. Is a lie. Most people who are like students, a good number of our students are on Facebook and all that. What do? To greet their friends. They are not attending to any political news. They are not on any civic forum that promotes political discussion. Let's do your study and you find this out. So when you come to issue of access, you come to issue of use, the issue of digital divide is very, very important. Just as people, the powerless, the poor, are discriminated in the mainstream media, so also are they disempowered in the cyberspace. We must not be too enthusiastic. That's the point about the net. Every new medium, there is a tendency that they will go the way of the old medium. When television came, the euphoria was that, oh, democracy has arrived. But before long, television became an instrument of the ruling class. So we are likely to see that in the issue of social media. And of course, I look at the question. When we look at the end of this NSAS protest, with all due respect, I feel very sad. What have we achieved? Has the Nigerian police been reformed? It's like they are worse than even before. I don't know here, but in Lagos, if you look at the atrocities that the police are committing now, if they are not worse than before, at least they are just at the same level. So we went to protest, we did all that, the whole world supported us, and then we are back to square one. Look at the Arab Spring. The president of Egypt, Sisi, is as conservative as those that they removed. The same thing in Tunisia, Algeria, in those Arab countries. The conservative forces have reasserted themselves, and even probably more than before. So there's something more important than just participating in media discussion, in mobilizing people, the issue of power. Those who control power control almost all the other levels of our institutions, including the media. So the point with political communication is that it is more or less for the elites because of this structural thing. So unequal power will bring unequal access to the media, will bring unequal use of the media, and of course will bring unequal enjoyment of the resources of the society. So Mr. Chairman, let me just conclude, and I've given just 2 minutes. The main issue when we talk about the role of the media in politics is that of representation and the exercise of symbolic power. Invariably, this boils down to the problem of access to all social groups in the society. As we have argued in this discussion, we cannot discuss all this without reference to the question of existing power relations and the inegalitarian socioeconomic structure of the society. Political communication takes place within the structural constraints constituted by the various forms of inequalities that we have in our society. How well the media reflects society's complex plurality and diversity, the balance of political force to the exercise of citizenship. Our citizenship is compromised by socio-economic inequalities existing in society and the imbalance in the flow of mediated communication and ideas and perspectives circulating in society. The two are inseparable. You cannot take away the flow of information in society away from the socioeconomic inequalities that exist in the society. It is the socioeconomic cannot adequately, and this is my conclusion, the mass media as currently constituted cannot adequately meet the requirements of democracy, which is at the heart of political communication. I want to thank you very much for listening.
A round of applause for Professor Live for sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Shaw, for that insightful lecture. Thank you, sir. We appreciate what you've done. Thank you, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while the lecture was going on, a very distinguished alumnus of this department walked in. He is the head of the Department of Linguistics and Communication Studies, University of Port Harcourt, River State, Nigeria. I am referring to Professor Udoakah. You're welcome, sir. Welcome, Professor Udoakah. Welcome to your alma mater. It is also my pleasure to acknowledge the presence in our midst of the Deputy Director of General Studies, the University of Uyo, Dr. Udoakah. Dr. Udoakah is a senior lecturer in this department. Dr. Udoakah, you're welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today was set aside in honor of Professor Udoakah. And some of our students have a presentation to make in honor of their distinguished lecturer and mentor. I am delighted, therefore, to ask the students who were appointed to do the word presentation to come forward now for that presentation. And I ask them to take note that that presentation will not exceed 3 minutes, or at the very most 5, so that we can listen to the remarks by the Honorable Commissioner's representative. Members of ACAS, are you around? Are you available? Okay. I didn't even notice that they were behind me. Please put your hands together for them.
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Nkereuwem, student of the Department of Communication Arts, University of Udoakah, and I'm here with
Nkereuwem to 300 level, Department of Communication Arts, University of Udoakah.
So we wrote a short piece to honor our very most great scholar. There's a man who possesses in him an ocean, a flowing fountain of knowledge for those who are thirsty enough to drink. Have you heard that in the mid-80s, a certain man stepped into the then Cross River State University, his heart craving for academic excellence, and his will was strong enough to push him across the corridor of life.
This man was passionate for scholarship. You could tell from the dedication and devotion with which he took every step towards attaining the apex of academics. Today we are here to celebrate a prominent scholar,
A renowned researcher,
a proficient educator,
a leader,
a founding father, and a man who is worthy of every title and trophy to his name.
Come, have you drunk from this great scholar? A professor of words, a man that has mastered the arts of communication, a writer, a critic, a man whose work has decorated our library and educated our minds through fountain of knowledge and pearls of wisdom.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the man which I speak of have tested the waters of journalism and media studies. I will call him a traveler because he has toured the globe in search for knowledge, from Ghana
to the United States of America and the United Kingdom,
and back to Uyo, where he has dedicated years of service to training generations of professionals in the media. His name is
Professor Nkereuwem Udoakah.
Thank you very much. When I heard that they were going to make a presentation, well, I needed to hold my breath, but I think I can now breathe. Thank you very much. Shall we give them a round of applause? We want to quickly run down the items on the program. Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Comrade Ini Ememebong, here represented by the State Director of Information, Akbarawa James Elliott. Can we encourage him, please?
Thank you very much, Professor Udoakah, the chairman on this occasion, the Vice Chancellor of this university, the absent chair, the head of the department, and of course the other very distinguished professors and academics that are here. I recognize all the important dignitaries that are here, both academic and community. I stand here in strategy of Nkereuwem said, comrade, that he called me, that I should represent him here. Because as we speak, if you follow the Nkereuwem State official social media platform, an occasion of this nature is presently taking place at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, the 61st Founders Day, where His Excellency the Governor is the guest speaker. And of course, my boss, the Commissioner, is one of those at the intellectual think tank at that very occasion. So he has sent me to represent him. The Commissioner is very pleased, first and foremost, with the man we are celebrating today. For some time I've heard Professor Wilson being referred to as one of the ancestors. Or the living ancestors. I do know that Comrade Yebong refers to Professor Udoakah as an academic patriarch. That's what he has told me he is, and we respect him for that. More so in the life of a distinguished mentor's role, but a very important spiritual and personal role, and adopted him as one of his mentors. So, as the Minister of Information and Strategy of Nkereuwem said, we appreciate the contribution to the development of Professor Udoakah has been with us to contribute to and the intellectual department of our ministry, also the strategic arm of our ministry. Sometime in the month of June is nature. The Commissioner is also very pleased about the contributions of these departments to not just the Ministry of Information and Strategy, because if you come to our ministry, it is on record that when you talk about our information officers and others who are helping us in information management, this department is on record to have contributed more than 60% of our workforce. And we wonder what would have happened to our ministry if this department country, highly intellectual gentlemen at different institutions across the country goes a long way to show the strength of this department. And listening to the guest, the keynote speaker today, will take back something, particularly, like I said, to our strategic arm of our ministry. More so at a time like this, where I can say, as a country, we are at a political crossroad. The import of political communication cannot be underestimated. We want to appeal that as the Minister of Information and Strategy, that we should be given a copy of that very scholarly presentation by the guest speaker. So it can also help us as we continue to activate our political communication process. More so, as the Minister of Information and Strategy, particularly under Comrade Nkereuwem, we've tried to see how a bridge can be built between the intellectual resource environment like this and the government apparatus in policy making. Comrade Nkereuwem, you recall about last year was in this department for that very strategic partnership. We would like to continue to enjoy such partnership beyond contributing to the manpower development of our ministry, where graduates from the ministry or from this department continue to serve us. We'd like to see a situation where this kind of intellectual discourse is somehow galvanized and embedded into the policy actualization and policy administration in government. Because by the time we enjoy this kind of beautiful presentation, highly academic and intellectual, the society misses out if there's no way of getting this across to the policymakers. I want to pledge on behalf of the Commissioner that from these examples we've learned today, we'll use most of what we've heard today to continue to develop strategic communication processes through which Nkereuwem people can be properly informed, most so given the completion agenda of the present administration. And so on behalf of the Honorable Commissioner, I stand here to felicitate with the man that we are honoring today, and of course, the Department of Communication Arts of this university, and of course the university as a whole, on this very auspicious occasion. And we do hope that other intellectuals, other academic institutions will borrow from this example and celebrate patriarchs of the academic environment while they are alive. Congratulations and thank you. Also, the Commissioner did send a token in support of this very scholarly adventure. May God bless us in Jesus' name.
Can we put our hands together for the representative of the Honorable Commissioner for Information? Nkereuwem James said it. I did say earlier on that Nkereuwem James said it is my contemporary. We have worked together for many years. We have worked together for many years. We've seen the ups and downs of life. But now he's a very senior citizen as the Director of Information. Can we once again thank him for what he has done? He has given a very good representation to the Honorable Commissioner for Information. And the best part of the representation is that he left an envelope with me. And I know that this envelope is almost personal. Thank you very much. Please convey appreciation to the Honorable Commissioner for sending you and for you being a very good messenger. Thank you very much. We're going to run down the program. We're going to take a few goodwill messages. Let me give a direction as to where the goodwill messages are going to come from. Basically, they are going to come from those that the academic patriarch, that is his new name, in addition to living ancestor. The academic patriarch has tutored in his life. When his citation was being read by Dr. Nkereuwem, we heard that many of his supervisees have become professors. And maybe we will use that opportunity to kill many birds with a single stone, so that you will see some of those professors that he had mentored and are here. And one of them is Professor Udoakah. He's here, University of Port Harcourt. Professor Godwin Okon, I think Dean